getting those materials, those collateral materials and the website and the social media language and all that stuff to kind of reflect who Adams and Beasley is in the same way that our projects reflect who we are. And so I'd say we're kind of on the journey right now towards getting there. And, you know, there's like, again, this whole working on the business in the business thing, right? There's so much more work we have to do that I'm really excited about, in terms of, in that vein, both for the internal customer and the external customer. And so all the things that, you know, internally we're doing for, like I said, the Culture Club and our profit sharing and all these things, like there's still so much more that we're excited to do to help our team learn and grow and prosper, as well as all the things that we want to kind of shout from the rooftops to the world about, you know, why they should want to work with us as opposed to someone else. So I'd say that's a very rapidly evolving aspect of our business.
Yeah, I look forward to your social media going forward, because you've done the hard part. You have the culture, you produce all there. Now you have a spotlight on it, and which honestly I think it is the easier of the two things to figure out. I similar to you, I came at this, I wanted nothing to do with marketing. I thought if I best paint jobs in the world, everyone will come find me. And that is not the case, my experience. Some people find you, but it's a lot easier to be proactive in getting in contact with the people that you want to work for and talk to them the way you want to talk to them when you produce quality marketing. And social media marketing is the easiest, most effective way out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in awe of you. You know, you got whatever, almost 32,000 followers on Instagram. I'm psyched. You know, we just crossed 2,100, you know, last week. So again, that's something that we're actively working on. And I think 2021 is going to be a big year for us in that context, especially since we've got some really, you know, I feel like with every project we do, not every project, but many projects we do are our best projects ever, right? And so, you know, the project we worked on with you down in the Seaport was so awesome. You know, that just amazing. You know, Patrick Planeta and his team, Corey Gans at Planeta Design Group, just unbelievable vision, client management, just spectacular. We're looking forward to, you know, collaborating with them again. I noticed you had Paula Daher on, I think it was last week or something. I was so excited to see her. She's someone that we love working with, and just, again, unbelievable vision, and collaboration with her and her team. And so we've got some jobs that are winding down now that have been, you know, a long time in the making, that we're going to be hopefully capturing, photographing soon, and sharing with the world. So we're very excited about that. So yeah, there's a lot to be thankful for, and a lot of fodder, shall we say, for new marketing materials.
And we'll talk offline about all of that stuff, because I have a bunch of ideas.
Awesome.
It's like, yeah, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you find, vet, and relationship with subjects. What's that like?
So it's interesting. That's not something that I play a very active role in anymore. I'm fairly, we have a pretty fluid, I think, and kind of competent handoff from sales to production. And more what we're looking to do is to have the project manager who's managing a project have a say in what subcontractors they're going to be working with on the job. which isn't to say it's a big free for all. It's not at all. But I think for us, there has to be a really strong overlap between our values and the values of any company we work with. Because, for example, if one of our core values is win as a team, right? So I know, although I feel very fortunate not to have experienced a lot of this, but I know from what I've heard from other subs that, you know, some job sites are a free for all and people are kind of possessive of their tools and the dumpster and parking spaces and this is my scope and that's your scope and don't cross the line and, you know, don't get in my way and all that stuff. And so if that's how you approach the work, you're not a fit for ABA. We are all in this together. You know, like we're gonna deliver a successful project if we can work together. And if the plumber's on site and there's some conflict between the pipes and the wires, we expect the electrician and the plumber to have a normal, thoughtful conversation about how to resolve that, right? This is not a turf war. So I'd say that's one thing is kind of respect of space and tools and keep the big picture in mind here. The other thing that we've tried to do is this thing we call sub-assist. So we try to make some of our staff available to help our subcontractors do their job. And so, you know, on larger jobs, that means there's, you know, a carpenter available to a subcontractor to help reframe something or cut some blocking out or open a wall or close a wall or whatever that happens to be, so that a lot of those things need to be done thoughtfully. You know, we don't want someone whose expertise is running pipe to feel like they should just whip out a Sawzall and, you know, make the path of least resistance the location where they're going to run their pipes. You know, and I'm sorry to all the plumbers out there, but we want all these things to be done thoughtfully. And so if we can assist in that, we can help in that decision-making process and we can allow them to kind of do what they do best and let us do what we do best. And in the process, we're all, again, winning as a team. So in terms of vetting subs or
beneficiary of that.
I'm sorry?
The beneficiary of that. And I was
good.
Grateful on that project we did at Liberty in the Seaport. You guys removed the doors, those big, heavy doors for us, so that painters didn't have to do removal and installation of doors. We painted the doors, we took them off site, but it was awesome to have a carpenter on site. Your team had people on site that did that little thing. And I know in real life what you're talking about, because there's a lot of times where that's not the case. We have to take the doors off and put them on ourselves. And like you said, like, you guys are going to be way better at that than the painters are.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example, a simple thing, right? Like if you don't have a system for removing doors where you've got like tightly mortised hinges and you unscrew the hinges completely, you're likely to get on one or more. I think on those we had like at least three. I don't know if we might have had 4 hinges on some of those doors. You're likely to get some like tear out on one of those hinge mortises. And then that's more work for you guys to, you know, to fix. If it's a stain grade application, that's even more difficult to fix. So why not have, you know, the people who kind of have that experience, have the tools, have the process in place to do that work. So that's something we do, which I think ultimately, at least that doesn't really answer your initial question, but I like to think that it helps the subs that we do work with find that working on our jobs are more pleasurable and more profitable. You know, everyone needs to make money and we want our subs to make money. There's, you know, you used the word extractive before. That's the opposite of what we want to do. Like this needs to be there needs to be mutual benefit for everybody, or else it's not a good not a good model. It's not a sustainable model.
Yeah.
So so I'd say it's similar, going back to your original question, how do we find, vet, and develop relationships with new subs? It's a difficult process because we are fiercely loyal. We have, but usually it's through recommendations. It's usually through another sub, right? Like we might be working with you and you say, hey, have you ever used XYZ plasterers? Because you guys come in after the plaster is done and you say, man, their plaster is spot dog. You might want to talk to those guys. And so that philosophy kind of trickles down throughout all the trades, I'd say.
Yeah, I recommended a metal guy for that project. I ended up doing a decent amount of work there. Whetstone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're awesome.
Guy. They're amazing.
Yeah. So I'd say you answered your own question.
Yeah.
There. Again, it goes back to the same thing with the employees, right? Like you're working on other projects with other contractors who have other subs and relationships, and who works well and might be a good fit for a particular project or a particular company. And so that's the secret to success, I'd say. And vetting is just give it a shot. It's the same way that I am constantly looking to develop new relationships with interior designers and architects because they are kind of the lifeblood of our business. And it's pretty clear that everyone says, the hardest job is the first one. Once we have an opportunity to work with someone and show them how we work and what we produce and what it's like to work with our team, fortunately, that usually is the first of many projects. And so, but sometimes it takes years, to get that first job that's a good fit. I'm just sitting here thinking of like this, Rolodex in my mind. I could probably rattle off 15 names right now of people that I really want to work with because they are so incredibly talented from a design standpoint. And I just want them to know what working with ABA is like, so I'd say it's the same.
For you, we'll talk about it offline.
Perfect.
Using social media to do just that.
Yeah.
I have as a side question. I was talking with Sonia earlier, and I have a question about company vehicles because I'm getting ready to buy probably a small fleet of vehicles. I have pretty sure what I'm going to end up doing. It's been a hard mental exercise for me we're going to get a number of Dodge Grand Caravan minivans, and we're going to let them up as professional as possible. Would I love a whole fleet of Sprinter vans all pulled up? Yes, but I'll pay 6 times the price. But so I want to get your thoughts on that and what
so I'd say the long and the short of it for us is, a couple things. Commercial vehicles in general, we've been buying a lot of pickup trucks because A, they're kind of the most appropriate and versatile vehicle for most of our team. And B, if you meet certain thresholds, you can actually deduct the entire price of the vehicle in the first year. So we've been kind of, with a couple of exceptions, we've been focused on buying Toyota Tundras and Ford F-150s that meet those criteria. And it's kind of a double benefit. It's a benefit to the company in as much as we can offer kind of this benefit to our employee, which they need, which has a branding value on its own, but also, that's, tertiary at best. But from a dollars and cents standpoint, it's not that it's free. It certainly still costs a lot of money, but you can derive some tax savings from that. So I think that for you in the caravan versus Sprinter van scenario, I don't think caravans qualify, but Sprinter vans can. might be part of your equation, I would certainly, talk to your accountant about that. And, that's kind of like, I'm sure for anyone who's versed in accounting would hear me say this and laugh, but, to me, that's like a little bit of like the next level of thinking around accounting. Cause cash number one, then your kind of P&L and your balance sheet number two, and the longer term assets that you purchase for your company can kind of play into your whole tax planning strategy, and assuming you have the cash to manage that, it can actually kind of benefit in the long run if you do it correctly.
That's kind of my limiting factor. We've purchased a lot of, there's a spray booth, and like, I got to stay conservative going into the next couple years. There's probably expect some correction at some, and I'm just like, as much as I would love to have big, beautiful vehicles, I can't justify it. But I've heard you guys have had some interesting experiences with companies.
Not all of them I can talk about publicly, but no, I'd say the other thing too is the closest, if you can get a 0% financing, or the closest to 0% as possible, certainly your benefit. You get, and then we finance most of it too. So it's still, you get the tax benefit in year one. You're still paying monthly payments for 4 or 5 years, whatever. But obviously that limits your cash outlay in the immediate term. So I definitely feel you. There's no shortage of monetary requirements that have to keep, leaving the bank account.
It's a constant battle of, I built this company on a razor thin margin of just reinvest. And I like to use an analogy of climbing the mountain as well. And I've been jumping from base camp to base camp as fast as I possibly could. Minimal amount of rest, minimal amount of rations, and I was like running to the next base camp. And I'm finally trying to stay at this base camp for a little bit, recoup my rations.
It's hard. Yeah.
Before I go to the next base camp, because I've definitely sprinted here real fast, and I'm trying to like temper that, be a little bit more conservative. And that's just one of the I've been coming to terms with.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that having started the company with Angus, having a partnership as going on 30 years now, deep friendship and partnership, and then bringing Nick on board, and more recently Laura Burns, who's our director of project planning. She had her own. She worked in design and construction for many years. Had her own interior design practice for several years, and having worked with her as a builder on some of her projects, we immediately recognized her amazing intelligence and experience and need for her perspective. And she came on board about 5 years ago. And we actually, not everyone knows this, but Nick, Angus, Laura, and myself are 4 equity partners in Adams and Beasley. So for many years, for most of our existence, Angus and I were 50-50 partners. But as of 2 years ago, we actually have a formal agreement with an equity sharing agreement where Laura and Nick are partners in the business as well. So I bring that up as only to say that I can't really relate to being a sole proprietor. I was for basically 12 months when I first started on my own after I left working for my uncle. I started a company called Adams Custom Builders. And within 12 months, kind of got way over my head with work, and convinced Angus to come work with me. He said, "I'll come work with you, but not for you." And I said, "Okay, fair enough." So part of our growth and our legacy is to again be continually kind of adding great talent, and we're super proud at this point to have 4 owners of the business who all bring very specific skill sets, and I think make it easier for the rest of us to kind of sleep at night knowing that we have not just an amazing team of 50 other people, but the other three of us in the ownership position who are committed. We did the whole
Blood.
pinky thing. Yeah, I wasn't going to say blood, but whatever it is, whatever the analogy is.
Well,
So.
I have to say, I'm going to be getting out my 8th grade yearbook, and I'm going to be looking at everyone in 8th grade and try to find a partner. I would love to have a business partner. Honestly, I have said that a number of times throughout my career. It would be amazing to have somebody else. I think there's a lot of, when I've seen partnerships work well, they just accelerate the growth and success of a company because I'm assuming that's what I want to ask you about in a minute about partnership as far as offsetting characteristics. But it is a very lonely thing sometimes.
Yeah.
That's why I love social media, and I'm in networking groups. I have colleagues talk a lot because when you own a company by yourself, it's a lonely thing sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
What is it about the partnership between you and Angus do you think that has helped you? Do you have very offset but aligned ethos, or the partnerships I've seen work really well are very aligned sort of morals and moral compass goals, but very different skill sets. Is that?
Yeah, I'd say 100%. He and I, we've been in, too many knockdown, drag out confrontations for me to remember. And they're usually about the stupidest thing, the reveal on the jam's got to be 3/16, not 5/32. We'll go to blows on that. But Angus is an amazingly unique individual. He is definitely the visionary of our company. He brings a level of intelligence and understanding and long-term perspective that I can only kind of hope to grasp. He's just an exceedingly intelligent man.
Is he the one coming up with all these awesome names, internal programs?
Like the Culture Club?
Yeah. And total employment calculator and all of these things.
No, the total employment calculator was mine, I think. But the marketing of magnanimity was his, for sure. Yeah, he has a speech that he wrote we belong to this organization called Remodelers Advantage, which probably more than any other investment we made helped to propel us to where we are today. So anyone who's a remodeling contractor that might be listening to this, I definitely encourage them to look into Remodelers Advantage. It's basically a peer group organization. You meet twice a year for 3 or 4 days with 10 or 11 organizations from around the United States and Canada. And you basically air all your dirty laundry, you full kimono, it's kind of and we've learned through seeing how other people succeeded and failed as we succeeded and failed ourselves. So anyway, one of the commitments that every session we have commitments that we have to do before the next meeting. And one of them was for Angus to kind of write I think the story or the ethos of Adams and Beasley. So he kind of expounds on different aspects of our business. That's where the no shitty hamburgers comes from. So anyway, he and I have this, it's again, it goes back to wrestling. It goes back to pushing ourselves physically and mentally to win. And winning today is a lot different and probably more amorphous than it was back in high school. When, one of the things I loved so much about wrestling was it's a team sport. But when you're on the mat for your match, there's not a whole lot anyone else can do to help you, right? This is like one-on-one, and it's a battle of endurance, of skill, of strength, and yet when that match is over, you either win or lose. You're contributing points to your team or you're not. And so he and I we also rode together, which is kind of comical to think about, him at 6'2" and me at 5'10". But interestingly, I had to learn to extend we rode in the same boat together. It was a 4-person shell. And I was the shortest and he was the tallest. And so he had to kind of learn to shorten his stroke, and I had to learn to extend mine. And there's that adaptation, that kind of tendency or kind of requirement to adapt who you are so that the other person can kind of reach their potential. Again, sounds corny, but these aspects are still kind of embedded in our culture today. And so Angus and I come at things from pretty much opposite directions, but we almost always land in the same place. It lends for some heated conversations that usually end with us saying, "I agree with you."
I would love to be in the room to see one of those.
Yeah.
I would love to be part of those. I had a partnership in the past in another company, and it did start like that. And I know what those are about. And and that's so I have people in my life that I can call. I have a mentor that sort of has those conversations with me. A lot of, putting me in my place, telling me how stupid I am on some level, like where I should be better. Because, I think that is really valuable to not just, especially with the social media world I live in, where it's like, a lot of praise a lot of times. And it's like, that's cool for a minute, but it doesn't really help you get any better.
Yep.
So having a partner, like I said, I am really jealous, and maybe one day I'll have one.
I'm familiar with many people who had partners that didn't work out. We did a project probably, God, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, at a funeral home of all places in Billerica, and a really nice guy who owned the funeral home we were working for. And he couldn't believe that we had a part. He would always say, "Partners are for dancing," and he couldn't believe that Angus and I could persist through years and years. And he was always saying that we would never, ultimately end in splitting up or whatever. But I think for us, the secret has just been the longevity, the shared sacrifice, again, that started early and has continued to this day. One of our mantras is, leaders have to do what needs to be done, whether you want to do it or not. And so there's plenty of difficult conversations with clients or designers or employees that I just assume shy away from. And I'm certainly, I'd say, of all of my characteristics as an owner, that's probably my biggest liability, is my tendency to shy away from a difficult conversation, because that's kind of the opposite of my operating mode. My operating mode is more around trying to build people up and to be positive and to support and encourage. But as a business owner, you have to also be able to do difficult things sometimes. And that's something that's a focus for me. And certainly I'd say one of my largest areas of, need for improvement. It's easy to kind of walk around with rose-colored glasses and be like, "Oh no, everything's going to be okay." And again, one of the other amazing things about members of our team one person in particular, one of our project managers, is he knows that about me. We've never had an explicit conversation, but I know when I get an email from him that has a certain tone and says certain things, that I can hear him saying to me, Eric, you need to have this conversation. You know, something's boiling over or going to, and I need your support on this. And so that's when, you know, you really got to pull your big boy pants on and you know, step up. So and you know, we've only had a handful, which is almost surprising given how many different people we've worked with, but we have had a handful of inappropriate comments and unacceptable things happen to us over the years, where that required an immediate rebuke, you know, an immediate action from me. You know, you can't. One case actually just a couple of years ago resulted in us basically firing the client. Said you can't treat someone like that, and that's just beyond the pale. So, you know, we'll finish up, and you can find someone else to finish the project. And that was extremely scary for me on so many levels. And I was so heartened to find out over the following several months that was not only appreciated, but welcomed by building management, the team on the project, and ultimately kind of an analog to that gymnastrophe story I told you before. You know, it's like at the time I was panicked and I thought it was going to be devastating, but in the end it actually turned out, you know, it's like, shockingly, you do the right thing and you know, it's the right thing, and good things come out of that. So
I just had I too suffer from not wanting to have difficult conversations. I'm a positive, like, let's go, like, bring the team together. Like, that's my.
We can do this.
But I've recently had a couple of pretty painful experiences with clients that both clients there were red flags that I ignored in the sales process. And because of a scope of work that was shiny on the other side of the red flags. And both of these projects I've been able to look back and they didn't go well. And one of them we were packed up, ready to walk away from. I said, we're leaving. And then 20 minutes later, I called the guys back and said, no, like, let's just do this. Like, you know, I just ignored all the flags again. And sure enough, it ends terribly. You could never have made this person happy. I knew all these things, but I didn't listen. So now I look back and it's like, okay, next time, now I've trained my like visceral reaction. I know what that feeling was. Next time I'm going to actually walk away. So as much as I don't want it to happen, I am looking forward to the time where I walk away. Hopefully I don't have to. Hopefully I can see it ahead of time. But
you will. It's inevitable.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But
it's so anathema to people like us who are people pleasers that like my ego is so energized by making people happy, you know, and there are some people out there that are just miserable, and it's such a tragedy, but that's just and I can't even comprehend that, because I'm like, well, certainly this is going to make them happy, you know? and sure enough, it doesn't. And you're like, well, I can't possibly win. And that's, you know, it's super unfortunate. But that's just a reality. And so, yeah, we say that, you know, the money that we've lost by trying to just, you know, fall on our face and make all these mistakes is the tuition we've paid in the School of Hard Knocks, right? And I don't know that there's any other way to do it, except break your face and get back up and try again, you know? And to your point, you start to learn about the red flags, but, you know, I am an eternal optimist. I feel like, you know, I'm this person. No. It's almost like the more miserable they are, the more passionate I am about trying to
I can change
convert them. Yeah.
Just wait till they get to know me.
Yeah, wait till they see the amazing work
When
we
I
do.
give them the best paint job ever, that'll turn everything around.
Totally. Yeah. So there's worse things in life, I suppose, for us.
Oh, I have a quick. No, we'll get to that later. So biggest lessons learned. I have, based off of what I've heard, you guys, you had a lot of things going in your favor from 8th grade all the way till now, and with the family and all these things. Like, you were on a pretty strong trajectory. Not, I don't think everyone gets to go as smoothly. I'm not sure it wasn't smooth, but I've had a lot of huge mistakes, and it's been a real hard slog to get here.
Yeah.
But what were some of the biggest? Because a lot of times, like for me, when I make changes to get better, a lot of the times it's because of hardships that I'm trying to not have happen. But
for sure,
to you, and so much of it's like you already had these awesome like perspectives on team building and awesome perspectives on the craft and making clients happy, and a lot of things I've had to learn the hard way. But could you talk to me a little bit about some of the biggest lessons you've learned and some of the pain points that helped you? How many of these things were pain points that got you here versus sort of intrinsically successful things?
Well, I guess first of all, I'd say I think the only way to learn is from your mistakes. I mean, you can learn things in a book or in a seminar or whatever, but ultimately, success and failure are the two best teachers we have. So honestly, I think even to this day, we, except for the people we were just talking about who can't possibly be satisfied or happy, everyone else, I guess by definition, can be, right? So I think our strategy, and as I said, it continues to this day, is to kind of put our money where our mouth is. You know, if you're not happy, we're going to fix it at our expense. And if we screw up, we're going to take care of it. It kind of dovetails back into this kind of craft culture that we have, because we have the capability for the most part to remedy problems. It goes back to your question about how do we vet and develop new relationships with subcontractors. We want subcontractors who take responsibility for their mistakes, and so if you surround yourself with that kind of perspective and people, then you don't avoid mistakes, you just fix them. And a lot of times, as with the gymnastrophy story, nowadays, I actually, and like that rug story I was telling you about before, those are opportunities for you to show who you really are. It's easy to say that you're a person of integrity, or that you warranty things, or that you use best practices or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all fallible. We all make mistakes despite our desire to do good work. And so when those things happen, you have to be honest about it and just say, look, we screwed this up and we're sorry and we're going to fix it. And it's certainly more painful at a smaller scale, because it takes you off the wall, right? It takes money out of the bank. It slows the whole operation down. And that's really difficult. And especially for people that are kind of driven by client satisfaction, it's one of the most devastating things to have to deal with. I can't, I mean, we've made billions of mistakes, I can't think of anything specifically in terms of our approach to that, except to say that it was many years before I mean, it's really only been the last several years where we've made money to the extent that we can pay ourselves a decent salary. And we, like you said, we reinvested for a decade or more. We reinvested basically all of our profitability into our mistakes and into our company. So
That makes me feel really good.
oh man,
Oh, what a relief.
it's yeah, there's been some very lean times. This is definitely not, bubble gums and rainbows for 16 years. This is a lot of ergs. This is a lot of, hard work, sleepless nights. Um, and, when things go well, they're awesome. And when things are a struggle, they're the worst. But one of the things, another one of our mantras is fake it till you make it.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know, it kind of flies in the face of our other mantra, which is Valhalla is always on the horizon, which means we'll just be faking it forever. But it's what else do we have? That's the humility part. Is knowing what you don't know and just doing your best, and hopefully surrounding yourself with great people and great clients and great collaborators, so that when the inevitable screw up happens, there's understanding. And that's kind of the long and short of it for me.
That's awesome. So would you, in order to get, I mean, I would safe to say we characterize at the ultra high end of residential built remodel. Did you have to, I know in order for me to get to this level of client and craftsmanship, I took I took it on the chin over and over delivering, making no profit, over delivering, making no profit, like, because they don't invite you into this world without reputation. And so it's like, I was talking with an architect, I was watching a show about architecture. No one wants to hire you to build a building until you've built one.
Right.
And vice versa. So I know, was that your experience? Well, I know that's been mine. It's just like, you want to pay me $600 to paint a front door? I'm going to give you a $2,000 front door paint job. Just let me do a gloss door little by little.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's for many years, I think Angus and I figured out we were making, we were running a business and making less than most of our employees. And that's just the reality, I think, of being a small business owner. At certain times, and people that are able to kind of avoid that are, lucky, smart, and I don't know what else. Rare. Thank you. Yes. So I think it's almost like it's an essential part of becoming a real professional, is having gone through all of those stages, which both humble you and continue to kind of fuel your ambition, so that with each passing day and each challenge and each success, you're able to kind of keep everything in balance. And the highs aren't so high and the lows aren't so low. And not in a bad way, I think in a really healthy way. And as I said earlier, my biggest ongoing boogeyman fear is just not having enough work. And I think that's probably a common feeling for all business owners. I think I used to have distraction of, we'd sell a project and then I'd put my tool bag on and start working. And that was, that was satisfying in a way. And so I don't do that now. My own house is kind of my, where I get my, my energy, of my building energy out of my own house and my own projects. I'm fortunate to have a workshop in my house, in an old barn, and I still like to build furniture and do stuff creatively. And I garden, and so that's kind of fulfills my desire to, use my hands and get dirty. And but now it's really about building the business, and taking care of the flock, and making sure that, I mean, it gets me emotional every time I think about it. But there are a lot, there are, we probably need to do this very soon. I'd say easily over 150 people that rely on our business to provide income and a job, for their home and their family. And if you think about, you zoom out a little bit more, the subcontractors and the vendors that we work with and their families, and it gets heavy emotionally. But it also can be the most rewarding, so it's kind of this yin and yang, it's a balancing act.
You better sell that next job. Keep it all coming in. But I know that. And I'm sure it's the same for you, but for me, like the way I can relieve that stress is by, like, what you're talking about, working on the company, working on it, not in, making the company fitter for the future. Like, those are those things, like when you get nervous about keeping your team busy, and yeah, there's lives that depend on us to keep things going. And I used to get really stressed out about that, or a lot of times it kept me very small. And without people, I didn't have any of these families for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I was just like I didn't think, I wasn't confident in myself or what we were doing, or, but now I have a lot of people have families now, but I relieve that stress by fitter as a company. And I love it. I try to make a minute of my day possible working on it, not in it. And
yeah.
And
I think, again, I think I mentioned this before, but at some point, and I don't know where we crossed a threshold. And it's certainly not a discrete line, but it's so I have 3 kids. My oldest is 16, and he's kind of always struggled with school. It's never been a place that he really felt like he belonged, and he has a much more kind of intellectual, artistic temperament than kind of the traditional academic setting is set up to handle. And so he actually started going to an art school last spring. He was a mid-year transfer. And this fall came, and they were going back remotely. And they had done basically the second half of last spring remotely, and it was a disaster for him. He couldn't kind of manage to motivate himself and sit in front of a computer and try to learn and keep all these, agendas and everything in mind. So anyway, this fall, my wife and I said, look, last spring was terrible. We don't want to recreate that. So we basically withdrew him from school for the semester. And we've tried to do some other kind of creative things. One of them was getting out in nature and doing some hiking. And so I'm trying to wind this back around, but I was able to relatively spontaneously take 2 weeks off to go hiking with him on the Appalachian Trail. This was like 3 weeks ago. We got back. And again, one of the most kind of inspiring and humbling experiences is to be supported by my team, to be honest with them about what I needed to do as an individual for my family and myself, and then do it, completely sever. I didn't even have internet connection. I didn't have cellular service most of the time, and go away for 2 weeks and then come back. And not only were things fine, things were probably better than when I left, mostly because I wasn't getting in the way, right? And so I wish that for every business owner, to have a team that can support them as they support their team, for this kind of, again, lots of flywheel and positive feedback loop analogies here, but it can happen, and when it does, it's just it's a thing of beauty, really. So I don't know what I've done to, I'm not sure what I've done to deserve all this, but I know it's not easy, and certainly been a long road, winding road.
So what have you done? My last question. Well, not my last question on my list before we do our standard question, buddy.
Uh-oh.
What would you say are your? I know we've kind of broadly touched, but if you were to bullet point things, what would you say your key systems?
I'd say again, humility starts at the top of the list. Know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and also know who you are. We've hired numerous consultants to help provide outside perspective, to try to lend structure to an otherwise, chaotic environment, and just this kind of always seeking continuous improvement. That's really, a innate kind of desire to always be better. And as you said, to, learn from your mistakes. Mistakes should not be feared. Obviously we try to avoid making mistakes, but there's something about kind of embracing the lessons learned from a mistake that are somewhat more profound than any other type of lessons learned, I think. So seeking out a diverse group of professionals that can help you kind of get there, psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, whether that's from, it could be accounting, human resources, marketing, creative, production, carpentry, but also never lose sight of like what excites you. I think there's always this kind of need to celebrate and keep alive the thing that got you to start the business in the first place, and if that's painting for you, then, it's important not to lose that. I think that if I didn't have my shop and I couldn't, go out there and experience what it's like to lose yourself at 3 o'clock in the morning with the music blasting and just like experiencing flow, that's kind of like, I'd say on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like that, self-actualization, you get glimpses of that, kind of moments of that are, I'd say, essential for a well-balanced life, and kind of food for the soul. So I try, I don't do that as much as I should, but I try to create those opportunities as often as possible. I belong to a handful of networking groups. Again, just trying to learn from other people. What do other people do that makes them successful? And just being a kind person. I think there's empathy is a amazingly powerful emotion, and it drives a lot of what I do on a daily basis. And, we've talked about a lot of things tonight, going back to, you asked me earlier, what's part of your sales strategy? Empathy is one of the large things in my sales strategy. I always, and I tell people this to their face, I often say, I'm trying to put myself in your position. What would I do if I was you right now? By saying those words out loud in a sales context, it helps me think kind of in a very focused way about the things that I would recommend to this individual. And I think it works in a sales strategy. It works in all aspects of life, at home and at work and with your team and with other people. So it's a long-winded answer, but I hard work, integrity, empathy, those are all, critical things.
That's tremendous. You take a huge weight off of my shoulders. Your company is so intimidating with how like well it's run, and it's so impressive. I aspire to have a company run like yours. So to hear all those things, I'm practicing a lot. I, you know, it's very inspiring to hear all that stuff. So thank you for sharing. Now we have 3 questions that we ask everybody at the end. These are the most fun.
Oh,
The last.
I haven't heard this part before.
So I need a DIY tip for people who are going to do some contracting. Or not, that's the best, remodeling of their own home. What's your like number one DIY tip to save the people who are trying to do their own remodeling? What do we see that's worked?
Yeesh. Well, see, I'm a big dummy, so like I try to do everything myself, including like electrical work and plumbing, with mostly low results. So I've learned to kind of rely on the professionals. DIY tip. I mean, this is like a stupid little thing, but I live in a part of my house is from 1835, so it's quite old. And I've replaced most of the doors, but for a long time there were doors that would sag or whatever, and you try to screw the hinges in because the hinges are like separating from the jamb or from the door. So my little trick, and I don't even know if this is what you're looking for, but I'd always stick toothpicks in the holes, and then you can break them off, and usually the screw will bite again, at least for a little while. So a little bit of glue and toothpicks in the hinge screw holes give you a new lease on life.
Tremendous. No, that's all right. This one is an easier one probably. What is your favorite piece of paraphernalia around building remodeling, like tool, piece of software, whatever it is? What's your favorite building paraphernalia?
So in my shop, my shop was built in like 1899. It's a 22 by 100-foot long single-story turkey barn, and part of it is my garage, but the shop is basically like 60 feet long, and I have a Delta unisaw in there, a table saw. And I think one of the things that I love more than anything is I have this Beastmeyer fence, rip fence. And that thing is just, when you can throw a sheet of plywood on there, set the fence for, whatever, 24 and 7/16, and know that 24 and 7/16 is, dead nuts. That's so satisfying. And, you get a nice sharp blade in there, and you get a really just crisp cut. I'd say that's fairly close to heaven. But sharp chisels and block planes, they're all up there. Festool has revolutionized my life too. The nothing like that slow start, slow finish motor coming on and off most of their tools. So, but an accurate rip fence is pretty sweet.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now the best question. You've obviously you're a freaking beast of a business owner, builder. It's all very impressive. But now we need to humble you, and I need the most embarrassing story that you can possibly stomach giving us.
Oh, geez. Most embarrassing story. Okay, I think this. Well, can I embarrass Angus?
Yeah,
that's okay. So we were doing this project for this amazing woman on Marlborough Street, and we were redoing she owned the whole building. She had kind of slowly acquired all the units, and she was renovating the garden level for her mom, who was getting older and had sold their place down in Rhode Island, I think, and was moving up to Boston to be with her. and we were Angus is petrified of rats. I happen to be petrified of snakes and spiders, but rats I don't mind so much. So I was literally crawling under the floor joist on top of the dirt in this sub basement while we were like getting ready to do some work to this place. And he was like standing in this access hole, and he could see the rats kind of running around down there. And it turned out that there was like a sewer pipe that was broken and had been that way for a long time. And so the rats were actually coming in and out of the basement through the sewer pipe, which is totally disgusting. But so we were working there, and one of our longest, I think he's our longest time employee, Greg, brought like a fake like stuffed rat, to work one day. And I had come out of that hole, and we had shortly thereafter, we break for coffee break or something. And we put the stuffed rat in one of the pouches of Angus's like tool bags. And so we came back from coffee break, and he went to put his bags on. And this is like the strongest, most, intense dude you'll ever meet. And he saw that rat, dropped his bags, and I don't think he stopped running until he got to the river. Like he was so freaked out by the rat. So it's not really an embarrassing story about me,
Yeah,
but
I think in hindsight, I'm going to have to have you go deeper, because
okay.
we talked about humility being one of your core traits. So I need you to get a little embarrassed here.
I mean, look, as I said, I've made so many mistakes, but I can't think of one that like really shines. Oh gosh, let's see. I mean, I think some people would find this embarrassing, but pretty much at almost every holiday party for the last like 6 years, and I'd say half of our company meetings, I end up crying in front of everybody because I'm so overwhelmed with emotion and seeing all the faces and everything. It's a little embarrassing,
no,
but
that's what we're talking about.
all right.
Tell everyone that Eric Adam cries all the time. It's perfect.
There you go. I'm an emotional man.
I love it, man. Your passion, it's clear. You're a very authentic human being, and part of that is cry. I'm the same way.
Sonia's verifying this now in the stream here.
That's perfect. I have a final question. Can I interview you on this podcast?
Sure.
Tremendous. I'm just trying to get rid of all of her excuses, because I really wanted to have her on, because she's.
No, I'd love to hear what she has to say.
Good. Well, Eric, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm happy to do it. I'm so glad you asked me. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I look forward to connecting in the near future. So sorry, I'm just looking up.
And I'm sure there's a thing in the back of her mind that was like, maybe he'll say no.
Yeah. Sorry, Sonia.
Sonia. Put you on here now.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much. I will be in touch. We'll talk about some Instagram stuff. And I look forward to working with you. You guys continue to do amazing things. Everybody follow Adams and Beasley if you're not already. And have a good night.
Thanks, man. You too. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, let's go, folks. That was an amazing, amazing interview. That guy exceeded all expectations. Obviously, I've worked with the company. I've seen how amazingly well run that company is, and the culture and the people. And it's like, it is intimidating a little bit when you see it. Working with them that first time was very intimidating. And everything runs so smoothly, and they're so passionate, and it's such a well-oiled machine. But it's cool to hear the story of how they got here. I think there's a lot of great lessons to be learned. I know I learned a lot. And it reaffirms some of the things I'm already doing. And I'm going to double down on a few more. And I'm going to continue to be patient and let time be on my side. I love the way that they took COVID and got even fitter and worked on processes rather than feeling like, oh man, you know, I love that mentality of like, let's keep getting better. So thanks everybody for watching. This will be up on YouTube. It will be on Spotify. It will be on iTunes. It will be on my IGTV feed. So you can listen to it again, or if you missed pieces of it. Again, I'd love it if you would rate, review, share. All those things are good. Working really hard to continue to get better at this. I'm going to get a ZK Live logo, and I'm going to stick it behind me, and it's going to be shifted down so it's perfect when we go live with 2 people, so you don't see half of a ZK. All those things bug me to no end, but you got to start someplace. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you later.